Welcome to this DevTV presentation on the AutoCAD.net API. This is Session 4, Database Events and Pallet Set. The main objectives of this session is to understand how to use the API to create database events which will allow your application to respond when an event occurs in the AutoCAD drawing. You will also see how to use a pallet set, which is a way to communicate with the user with a graphical interface. The AutoCAD.net API allows your application to take some action when something happens in AutoCAD. The way this works is that a notification that the event has occurred are sent to functions that have been set up to be notified of the event. The sender, in this case AutoCAD, only requires a function pointer to dispatch the notification message. Multiple applications can receive the notification. The function that will be notified is required to have a specific signature. We use delegates to set up this event system. Delegates are similar to a class, but they have a signature. They are like a type-safe function pointer. The delegate in the AutoCAD.net API will usually have Event Handler in its name. The object browser is very useful when we need to find the signature of the delegate. Here you can see the Object Event Handler signature. Once you have the signature, you create a function that uses that signature. In this case, it requires two arguments, an object and an object event args. In this C# code snippet, you see how to instantiate the delegate. The constructor takes the function we create. Notice how the plus equals is used to add the delegate to the sender's list of listeners in C#. In this example, cur.dwg is a database of the active AutoCAD document. In VB, you also create the event handler. In this example, it is a sub-procedure named obj_appended. Notice it is using the required signature for an object-dependent event handler, which needs two arguments. The first argument is an object, and the second is an object event args. You use add handler to set up the event. Notice the first argument is the event, in this case the object-dependent event of the database, and the second argument is a new object event handler that uses the address of with the name of the sub we created named obj_appended. You remove the event by using remove handler and address of. When you create a .NET application, you may want to have a user interface for that application that looks like it is built right into AutoCAD. A pallet set will allow you to do this. You can create a window that you can dock in the AutoCAD editor. Sometimes these are referred to as Enhanced Secondary Windows, or ESW. The pallet set class, which allows you to create this user interface, is in the autodesk.autocad.windows namespace. You also need to add a reference to presentationcore.dll. Your pallet set will contain controls such as a user control. You use Visual Studio Wizards to create the controls, and then use the add method of the pallet set to add the user control to the pallet set. When you create a new pallet set, you will need to supply a GUID. This is a unique identifier and can be created in Visual Studio by going to the Tools menu and selecting Create GUID. This option may not be available, however, as it depends on what settings were in effect when Visual Studio was installed. In your application, you will also want to have a global variable that will allow you to know whether or not the pallet set was previously created. You do this because the pallet set can be hidden or displayed, but you would not want to recreate it each time the user redisplays it. Let's put what we have learned to the test by doing the steps in Lab 4, where we'll add database events and create a pallet set. Here we are in Visual Studio. I have the Lab 4 project opened. You can see that it has the code from Lab 3, and it also has a user control, and this user control has a tree view that's been added. I'm not going to go through the steps for adding that, but those steps are in the Lab 4 document that you can see here. At the start of this lab, You go through the steps to add the user control, and then you add the tree view control to the user control. So use those steps if you're working through the labs with your own project. And if you're using the provided projects, you'll already have the user control with the tree view control added. So let's go ahead and get started on the steps for Lab 4. In step 1, we need to add a reference to Presentation Core. I guess I shouldn't have closed the Solution Explorer. Let's go ahead and bring that back up and then go to Add Reference. In the Add Reference dialog, we'll then select Presentation Core and say OK. Presentation Core is needed for creating a palette set. So step 2, let's use the import statement to bring in the AutoCAD Windows namespace. So we'll add that up here. Now in step 3, we need to declare a palette set variable as a palette set, and we only wanted to create it once, so it's going to be a global variable. So we'll use the public keyword. Let's call this my palette set. Move on to step 4. So we need a variable as a user control, and this is the control that was created by using that Lab 4 document. And this control will be housed by the palette set that we created in step 3. We'll call this my palette. And then in step 5, we're going to add a new command named palette. And we need a procedure. And we need to move the in sub after step 10. Here we are in step 6 now. We need an if-then statement, and we need to see if the palette set is equal to nothing. Let's go ahead and do that. And where do we put the end if? After step 9. So here in step 7, the palette set hasn't been created yet, and we need to make a new palette set, and we need a GUID for that. So let's go ahead and use the Tools menu and then go to Create GUID. And we'll use this registry format. We'll select New GUID, and you can see the result down here, and then we'll copy that to the clipboard. And I'm just going to paste this in to see that new GUID, and I'll just make this a string because I know that's what it's going to take. Make my palette set equal to a new palette set. And we'll use this argument here where we have a name of the palette set and then the tool ID as a GUID. So let's call it my palette. We'll make a new GUID, and we'll use our GUID that we created. Let's just put this on a different line so you can see it better. And let's move on to step 8. where we instantiate the user control variable. So the way we do that is make my palette equal to a new user control one, and then add the user control to the palette set. So we can just use the add method of my palette set. The name we'll use for this is palette 1, and add my palette. And in 10, we'll display the palette set by making the visible property of the palette set equal to true. We can go ahead and run this now. So I'll go to debug and go to start debugging. And it looks like I've got some build errors. Let's go fix those. So we need to put a space here at the line continuation character. Let's try building this again. There's another error. And I'm reversing parentheses. So let's try building it now. And that did succeed, so let's go ahead and run AutoCAD. Okay, AutoCAD has started up. Let's go ahead and run the netload command. I have it in AutoCAD.NET Labs, Lab 4, in the debug directory, and open up Lab 4 DLL. And I'll go ahead and run that palette command. And you can see that my palette is created. And if I close it again and run the command again, it redisplays it. Let's put a breakpoint in here at the if statement. The only code that should run is this visible equals true line. Let's see if that's the case. If my palette set is nothing, I'm going to debug and then step over, and it goes to end if, and then I'll go step over again, and then you see my palette set.visible equals true, and that redisplays it. Alright, let's go ahead and go back to our lab steps with step 11. Here we need a command named add db events. Let's put the in sub after step 20. So this command will be adding our database events. So let's move the in sub after step 20. Here we need an if-then statement to see if the palette was created, because we're going to use that palette in one of the events down below. So if my palette is nothing, we will move this after step 15, get the editor, and we tell the user to run that command. And this is application, document manager, the MDI active document editor. And then we write a message telling the user to call the palette command first. And then we just exit the sub. So in step 16, we need to declare a database variable and instantiate it by making it equal to the database property of the MDI active document. Let's call this cur DWG as database. So now we're going to use the add handler statement and create an object dependent event. So it's add handler. The first argument is the event. So I can just get the object dependent event from the database. So it's a new object event handler. And we use the address of function. And we'll use the name of a function called callback underscore object appended. And we'll be creating this function in a later step. So you can see you get this error. It says it's not declared, but it will be shortly. So now let's create another event. This is a database object erased event, so we need to do something very similar. So it's add handler. This time we want the object erased event. So we need a new object erased event handler. Address of. And we're going to call this one callback object erased. So again, we'll have to create this callback object erase function. So I can just copy and paste this code now. I think you get the idea that it's going to be very similar to creating a different type of event. And this one is going to be the object reappended. This needs to be a new object event handler, and then this is going to be callback object reappended. So let's do those steps again. And this one is a object unappended of the database. And again, that's an object event handler. And this is going to be callback object unappended. So that's the steps that are creating the events, but we need to create all the callbacks. So let's go do that now. And this will be in step 21, where you create the callback object appended. Get the name of the function from the add handler calls, just so we can make sure we don't make any mistakes. And I can just put it in right here. And we just need to get the arguments right. And this we need an object. And we need an object event args. And then let's put the in sub in, but we need to move that after step 23. So here in step 22, we want to create a tree node variable, and it's of the type system windows.forms.tree node. We're going to add a node to that tree view on the user control in that tree view. We'll call it new node. Tree node. And that will equal my palette, and then the tree view on that palette, and then the nodes add, and we'll use the object event args that was passed in, and it will have a DB object, and then we'll get the type using the getType method, and let's just get the text for that using the toString, and you'll see what that does when we run this. And then we'll make the tag property of the node equal to the object ID of that appended object. So when an object is appended in the AutoCAD drawing, like you add a circle, then the tree node is going to be created and updated with the object ID and the type of that. The tag of this tree node will equal the object event args DB object, and we'll get that object ID from it. So let's move on down to step 24. We'll make the callback object erase. It's very similar to the sub we just created earlier. And this is from step 18. So let's just go ahead and get that from there. This is the function that's going to be called. So it's by val, and let's call this an object called sender. And we also need, just make this on the next line, a object erased event args. And then we need the in sub, and we need to put that before step 32. So then in step 25, we need an if-then-else statement, and we're going to check the erase property of the object erase events args that's passed into this function. And we put the else statement before step 30 and the indef after step 31. So there is a erased. If that's true, then we put the indif, and we need an else statement. And we move the else before step 30. And indif after step 31. So this actually was supposed to be before step 32. So what do we do in step 26? We search for an object in the tree view control so it can be removed. So keep in mind, so this is the object erase. So if before it was appended and we put the data in the tree view, now here it's going to be erased and we want to take it out of the tree view. So if the object was erased, then we'll need to access our tree view control. So the way we do that, let's do a for each loop. So for each node forms a tree node in my palette, tree view 1 nodes, and let's put the next statement below step 29 for the else statement. Look at step 27, and we'll use an if-then statement to test to see if the node tag is the object ID of the erased object. So if node tag is equal to the object ID, and then we need to put the if above the next statement. In this case, this node would be the node with our object ID that was erased. And we need to remove the node by calling the remove method for it. And that's just node remove. So that was the node that was erased if we get here. So we'll go ahead and exit the for loop because we don't need to keep going through all the nodes. We've already found the node that we wanted. So we exit that for loop. And if this is processed, it means that the object was unerased. So E erased was false. So let's go back and look at our statement up here. If E was erased, then we run this code here, of course, but if it was not erased, then that means it was unerased. So it means that E erased was false, and then we declare the tree node, and so we're adding the tree node back in. So this is code very similar to what we did before, and I can just go back and get that where we added the node in this event, because this is basically what we're doing in this step here. So if it's okay, it should work fine. So this was basically before, when the object was added to the database, we added the tree node. In here, when it's unappended, it's similar to being added back, so we just add it back to the tree node. Then we make the tag property of the node equal to the object ID. So this is also very similar to what we did earlier in the object appended event right here. We can just take this code and put it in for our step 31. So now we need the object reappended event. Let's get some code here. It's very similar to this one. And let's just copy it in. The end sub as after step 34. And the name of this one was the callback object reappended. So let's just go get that from our add handler that we added. This is the callback object reappended. And we'll make that the name of this function here. And the arguments for the object reappended just needs to be changed to an object event args. In step 33, we add the class name of the object to the tree view. And I just like to borrow code whenever I can. This should work okay. So let's go ahead and copy that. And we'll record the ID for recognition later. Alright, in step 34 we need another function. Let's copy this. The end sub goes after step 39. And this is when an object is unappended. So let's go get that callback object unappended from our delegate. It's called callback object unappended. So we have an object unappended now, and we'll search for the object in the tree view controls so it can be removed. So we also have already done something very similar to this. Let's go ahead and get that code right here. And we put the next statement after step 39. So we need an if-then statement to see if this is the object that we want. I'll go ahead and just type this one in. The node tag and then we'll use the object event args passed in. DB object, object ID, put the end if after step 39. So if we get here, then this is the node for the unappended object, and we want to remove that node. So we're keeping our tree view up to date with these events. So we just remove it. Node remove. And we just need to exit the for loop. So some of these events were very similar in their behavior. They just get called at a different time. And hopefully that'll help you understand how events work. So that's the last step in this lab. And we'll go ahead and try debugging this, step through it, and talk about what it's doing now. I'll go ahead and build this and see if we can build without any errors. And it did succeed. So let's go ahead and debug. On the debug menu, start debugging. Okay, AutoCAD is started up. Let's run netload. Load our project. And I'll run the add DB events. And if I show a few more lines on the command line, you can see it says please run the pallet command first. So let's do that. And then if I add a circle or some entity, nothing happens in our palette. Let's go ahead and erase this circle. And now I'm going to run add DB events. It should add our events that we created. This time when I run a circle, notice that the node is added to the tree view, and it tells us that this is a circle. If I add a line, the entity is put in the tree view as well. So you can see I'm getting some events to happen when objects are appended to the drawing database. If we put a breakpoint in on that function, Let's go look at that. Our object-dependent method or sub-procedure right here. And let's add an object. You can see that that breakpoint will get hit. And that did hit. So the new node tag is the object ID, and then when the object is erased, let's put a breakpoint there on the object erased. Call back and go over to AutoCAD and erase one of these entities. And notice what happens. So I'm just going to delete that. If E erased, step over, it's going to go through, and let's see if it hits the node remove. Go to continue, and it does hit that. And then I'll continue again by hitting F5. And we're back in AutoCAD, and our palette is erased. If I type in oops, and erased is false, we'll see what happens. Step over, and then the node is added back in. Let's go continue, and you can see that the object was unerased and the node has been added back to our palette in our tree view. So you can see how the events and the palette can work together to provide some good information to the user, and it also helps you understand some of the power of the .NET API to create these custom applications. And you'll see some more use of palettes in labs that are coming up. Thank you for watching this DevTV presentation, and good luck with Lab 4. We'll continue this AutoCAD.NET API training in Session 5, where we'll show how to use the AutoCAD.NET API to create dictionaries and containers, and also learn about type identification and casting.